When a lioness approached him from behind, George was taken by surprise. He was in the middle of the savannah, capturing shots for his documentary film. He noticed that the lioness didn't appear aggressive and seemed to be in need of assistance. Without hesitation, he decided to follow her. To his amazement, he noticed a lion in the distance, which initially made him uneasy. The lion looked peculiar with a vastly distended belly. George promptly dialed the local veterinarian's number, who had no idea what he was describing. It was the first time she had encountered such a situation. After conducting an ultrasound, she immediately contacted the police. The animal kingdom is vast and encompasses overwhelming diversity. No two animals are alike in terms of size, shape, color, behavior, and ecology. This diversity is what makes the animal kingdom so fascinating. Some of the more unique animals in the animal kingdom include the platypus, kangaroo, and koala. Australian animals differ from those found elsewhere in the world. Australian animals are less cold-blooded and have longer gestation periods compared to animals in colder regions. When the veterinarian called the police, she was promised that they would be on their way immediately. It required more than just the expertise of a veterinarian. The lion needed surgery due to something unusual happening in its stomach that could potentially threaten its life. When the police arrived, they assisted the vet in sedating the nearly lifeless massive lion. But the police didn't just assist the vet, they also reached out to the ranger, requesting his presence as the situation was critical. George was astonished by what had gone wrong. He was bombarded with a series of questions about himself and the lion, as he had been managing the wildlife area as a ranger for many years, responsible for the animal's safety. After answering all the questions, the vet exclaimed, "I can't believe it." But what did the vet discover in the lion that left her so baffled? As a ranger, George had studied the lions in this area for years and was responsible for protecting them from dangers like poachers and other nefarious individuals. Lately, they had been struggling with a shortage of manpower, and the savannah remained persistently dangerous for all involved. This combination posed an extremely challenging situation. Their boss continued to pressure the rangers, but many of them were ill-equipped to handle the situation. Outsiders had also noticed this and were taking advantage of it, making things even riskier. One day, while George was on his usual patrol, he spotted something massive in the distance. At first, he thought he was simply overworked and imagining things, but as he got closer, his jaw literally dropped. George was shocked by what he saw and took a step back. Initially hesitant to approach the lion, he was unsure of how it would react. However, his love for animals prevailed, and he felt compelled to help the animal immediately as something was clearly amiss. It was the largest lion George had ever seen, and he recognized it as the alpha male of the local lion pride. However, the lion didn't appear to be in its usual imposing state. Its belly was hugely distended. George had to take action. He cautiously began to approach the lion, though unsure of how the animal would react, given lions are proud creatures. Then the lion fixed its gaze on George, and for a brief moment George's heart stopped. However, the other rangers shouted back, warning him that the lion might react violently in this situation as it tried to defend itself. The rangers decided to make a phone call and attempted to reach the nearest veterinarian. When the ranger who made the call hung up, he reacted with surprise. According to the veterinarian, the rangers should stay away from the lion as it might attack them. The animal needed to be tranquilized so they could examine it more closely. George and the rangers ensured the area was secure, and George decided to tranquilize the lion himself since he had spotted it and wanted to ensure everything went as smoothly as possible. The rangers were fortunate as the lion was soon sedated and showed no signs of aggression toward them, indicating that it was indeed seeking help. The rangers could now see precisely where the lump on the lion's body was located. George contacted the veterinarian, who was not yet on site, to inform her of their discovery. The rangers were eager to know what to do next, but when the veterinarian learned about the lump, her demeanor changed. The lump was situated in a specific spot in the lion's stomach, indicating that it had swallowed something it shouldn't have. This would require emergency surgery for the lion to survive. There was no room for hesitation. The rangers were at a loss, so they approached the veterinarian and asked her what they should do. They considered bringing the lion to her, hoping that would be the best option. However, it was a challenge for the veterinarian to reach the rangers because she didn't know their exact location and it was rush hour. She risked getting stuck in traffic, but she needed to get there as soon as possible to save the lion's life. A ranger offered to drive her, but that would take too long. Fortunately, the staff at the ranger headquarters still knew exactly where the rangers were and how to reach them. So the veterinarian decided to go to the headquarters. After explaining the problem, a manager volunteered to assist her. They planned to traverse the savannah in his rugged jeep, which was never easy. The journey took a total of about 3 hours. The veterinarian had often pondered whether it was worth sacrificing an entire day and more for the sake of another creature in need. The rangers on site were also frustrated by the long wait for the veterinarian. Their fears seemed to be coming true. The lion's sedation had worn off and he had no intention of staying in his current location. He had waited long enough and was now attempting to move. The rangers were unsure how to respond. Some rangers considered simply releasing him, as that would mean they could finally return home. Why were they even so concerned about a lion? It was just an animal that had swallowed something it shouldn't have. However, the group couldn't agree. Others had taken the veterinarian's words seriously and realized that releasing the lion would likely mean his death. The rangers could use their jeeps to block his path back into the savannah. They were unable to tranquilize the animal because they had used up all their sedatives. Only the veterinarian had a dose, but they had to wait for her. However, they couldn't completely encircle the lion, so they had to keep moving to block his way. The animal was clearly agitated, and the rangers had to be cautious. They had concerns about whether this was the right approach, as the lion could attack them at any moment. The rangers recognized that they had to rely on each other. It became a collective effort. The leash still lay in the same place where the rangers had held him. However, it became clear that this would not be the case for much longer, as the lion became extremely hostile. The rangers didn't even want to leave their jeeps, which they had parked there to keep the lion in check. The lion immediately approached the remaining rangers in their jeeps. Many of the rangers had already had close encounters with the lion, but concern for the lion had now reached a peak, as they didn't want to get hurt. Finally, the veterinarian arrived. The veterinarian had to act immediately because she knew she only had one chance to tranquilize the lion quickly. However, sedating the lion was not without risks. Given the lion's condition, there was always the possibility that he might not wake up again. However, the veterinarian was confident he would survive the treatment after observing his attempts to attack the rangers. The only option was to approach the lion using tranquilizers. So she administered the sedative and waited until he was completely sedated. The lion was finally fully sedated. The veterinarian could now focus on the lion's large lump. Initially, she opted for an ultrasound as she had suspicions due to the peculiar occurrences. The police were allegedly on their way to assist with the procedures, but George had to answer some questions first. While palpating the lion's body, the veterinarian quickly confirmed her fears. An object was stuck in the lion's stomach. It was something he had swallowed, and his digestive system couldn't break it down. There was only one thing they could do at this point: carefully open the body and remove the object. However, surgery was never without risk, especially when conducted in the middle of the savannah. But there was no other choice. The doctor cut the lion with the utmost precision and care. After piercing through the skin, muscle, and esophagus, the source of the swelling was finally revealed. However, it was not the expected result. The swelling was caused by a piece of meat that the lion had not properly digested. The piece of meat had not broken down adequately, initially confusing the veterinarian. But inside the meat, something glimmered. Inside the meat was a small microchip, which George discovered. He informed the authorities and shared his suspicion about what it could be. George began to explain that he had recently encountered some shady characters in the region. He had recently captured poachers and confiscated a device they had with them. He rushed to his pickup truck and handed over the device to the authorities. A police officer immediately recognized the device as they had previously apprehended someone with an almost identical one. This system could be used to track the microchip and easily locate the poacher's whereabouts. This was a recently employed strategy since the meat used couldn't be digested by the lion and thus got stuck in its digestive tract. The veterinarian immediately began stitching up the wound after removing the chip. Meanwhile, she checked if the lion had any other issues, but since he seemed to be in good health, she believed he would recover in no time. The lion took a few minutes to wake up. At first, he appeared confused and bewildered, but after a while, he began to move much faster than before the surgery. After the lion returned to the savannah, the veterinarian still had one task to complete. She praised the rangers for their heroic efforts in protecting the lion and themselves, then returned to the city.